We are also we're all set, Mayor.
Thank you, everyone. All right, good evening and welcome to our April 25th, 2023 Town of Windermere virtual workshop for the Town Council this evening. We appreciate everyone's attendance. We're going to make sure that we have the opportunity to hear from everyone, as well as get some updates on the latest and greatest in terms of discussion of the Windermere Healthy West Orange Rotary Pavilion. So you want to scroll the screen a little bit so I can see the agenda. Unlike Molly, or unlike Mandy, I'm on like one screen tonight. So, all right, I appreciate that. Thank you. We will please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this point, our business for this evening is the Rotary Healthy West Orange Pavilion, the 45% plans, presentation, and discussion. Actually, I think we've got some additional discussion that's going to center around kind of the future considerations and direction for said pavilion. Robert, I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's go ahead and we will do public comment at this point. I know Clerk Burkhalter has a kind of an update for everybody in terms of input and public input. I'm going to let her speak to that. We want to make sure that we support her in getting those information and opinions and public input to her in a timely manner so they can be included. And at that point, we will allow any public comment that folks are interested in providing for this evening. And Robert, are we going to have the chat box on or off tonight?
Sorry, sir. I will have it off after public comment is closed.
Sounds good. Yep, because it just gets a little hard going back and forth for an official meeting. All right, good.
Great.
All right, Dorothy, we will let you kind of present your piece at this moment.
Okay, thank you. If you can let anybody and everyone know if there is any meeting, whether it's a town council meeting, a workshop, budget, whatever, any comments that need or you would like to make need to be made that you're doing in an email or however, 4 o'clock deadline the day previous of the meeting. So that will be the cutoff from now on for any public comments to come in that relate to a meeting that you want addressed or forwarded to the town council. 4 o'clock day prior to the meeting is the deadline.
All right, thank you, Dorothy. And that is as much for everyone whose public comment is provided or input is provided as well. And that gives us time to make sure that it gets out to everyone, gets distributed as is requested. It makes sure that we stay on the proper side of the sunshine law. And it also allows it to be put into the record. And if there's questions on it, it also gives us the opportunity to address those. So that will be worth your time as well for everyone. I appreciate everyone's support and help with that. All right, at this point, we will open public comment. Public comment will be for 3 minutes this evening. I know that I believe everyone was in attendance for the previous workshop. So if you've made strong points and public comment previously, that doesn't mean you can't speak this evening, but if you'll just touch on those items and say, nothing's changed with my previous opinions and comments, or also if you have some new ones to add that as well. So if you'll raise your hand, we will work our way through the list, your virtual hand. We will work our way through that. And we will start off with Teresa Schretzman-Myers. Teresa, you're muted.
Can you hear me, Jim?
We can, yes.
I just want to, my name is Teresa Schwartzen-Myers, 2713 Tryon Place, Windermere, Florida. I oppose the pavilion. The most valuable and last remaining open green space, historic longleaf pine and oak tree canopy in the northwest green quadrant of Town Square Park must be kept and preserved for the use of town residents, Parks and Recreation Committee, Tree Board, Windermere Wine and Dine. All we need are public restrooms. We can start from the beginning and go back to Healthy West Orange for another grant. There are more pressing needs such as restoration of Town Hall and its roof, Town Hall back porch, which is rotting, and other items that we haven't taken care of. Infrastructure we still don't take care of. Taking the tree canopy would be a great loss for the town of Windermere. We've lost so much of that tree canopy along the sidewalk, and that is the last remaining tree canopy in that northwest quadrant. We lost a bunch of the longleaf pines to put the trailer up there temporarily while you guys built the new town office. None of the committees want this. They want that green space because they use it for all of their events. If we do decide to do the bathrooms, let's not put it there where the trees are, because that will impact the critical root zone of the remaining trees that are there. So let's just take a breath here and stop this, start over, find the right place to put these bathrooms. We don't need a pavilion. You can use temporary stages on events like we always have, or put the band in front of the town hall square steps and have the music face the business district, so it's not impacting any of the residents who have to listen to the noise, the sound, the lighting. We don't need a permanent pavilion that looks nothing like the historic character of Windermere and would take up the most valuable green space left in the town square. So that's my thoughts. I would like to see a lot of the tree canopy planted back on the perimeter. That is gone. And a lot of that shade that we used to have in the town square, that is gone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mayor.
Teresa.
Mayor, if I could quickly respond with a rebuttal, because I believe that there's needs to be an update. We are doing an assessment of Town Hall as we speak. And that is the next major project that we'll be exploring for next fiscal year. So we are looking at the refurbishment of Town Hall, but we will make sure that we, stay with the Department of Secretary Interior to make sure that the historical integrity is intact. But we have just done an initial assessment, so we're not
That's
avoiding.
correct.
Yeah.
Council approved that a while ago with the new budget for FY 23-24 or 22-24. So, all right.
And Robert and Mayor, can I add one thing too, just just to remind everyone that this is a grant that was made by the West Orange Healthcare District to the Rotary. So I just want to remind everyone that there's not the ability to say, oh, we'd like the town to use this money, this $1 million for some other project or to devote it elsewhere, because this is a grant that was made, like I said, specifically from the West Orange Healthcare District to the Rotary Club.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Ramos. That is important as well. So these funds are not flex funds. They are funds that are specifically designated for the pavilion. Just going back and asking Healthy West Orange is not the process. And there is no guarantee, especially if we don't make good on a particular grant with them and a particular grant contract with them, that you would have that opportunity to do that. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but you certainly are not guaranteed that by any stretch. We'll move now to Miss Angela Withers.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I won't go over everything again. I just want to make a couple of comments that weren't quite clear on the vote options we were given at the earlier workshop. That I would have liked an option that said, let's keep Healthy West Orange involved, but renegotiate attempt to renegotiate the contract to go back to starting with a full site analysis. That is key. Once we removed that other old building in the back, it opened things up. Everyone starts to visualize differently from what we were able to do before the removal of the community building. And I suspect that Healthy West Orange, who are wonderful to work with, might well be agreeable to coming back and saying, okay, let's go back and do a full site analysis and start over. I'm not opposed to an appropriately sized and appropriately located pavilion. I see great benefits in it, smaller, but appropriately sized and located, and the restrooms appropriately sized and located, so as not to have negative impact on much of our tree canopy, and look at how we replace the tree canopy. But all of that requires a really good full site analysis. And that is what I would like to recommend. And I would hope that Healthy West Orange can see the advantage of that and perhaps be willing to renegotiate the arrangement with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Angela. Just for a quick clarification, there is no agreement between the Town of Windermere and Healthy West Orange. It is with the Town of Windermere and the Rotary 501c3.
I stand corrected. I agree with that. So it is more complicated. So it would have to be with the agreement. And I do want to say how much I appreciate all the work that Rotary has put into this. I understand that it's with the best intentions. And so I hope that perhaps they can get involved with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Angela. I appreciate that. If you put your virtual hand down as well, that helps us keep track of who has had the opportunity to speak and gets us to the next individual, who is Brandy.
Hi, Brandy Haynes, 835 Oakdale Street. I actually missed the last workshop, shocker as that may be, but I heard a lot of feedback from everybody, and I didn't see the little survey you guys did. Like, I guess you did a pop-up one during that meeting, but I did kind of hear about it. I've always been against the design, you know, way before everyone else was. I always thought it looked a little bit too modern and a little bit too big for the town, going back to 2018, 2019, whatever year this started. I do think at a minimum we need bathrooms. And I did send an email to Robert, and I just wanted to check to see if there's been any other updates since yesterday, but I'm assuming not. That, you know, in terms of like working with Rotary and asking to see what funds have been spent, they're not answering, the people have been asking. So I think continuing to work through Rotary to do anything seems like it's just going to be difficult, and they're not responding to things unless something's changed. So I think we need to go back to square one, and we need to find out, you know, what the town really wants, because there's been a lot of pushback on this. I think the bare minimum that I've talked to everybody agrees on is the bathrooms, and then it's just all over the charts. Most people don't really want the pavilion at all, and the ones that do want it definitely want a lot smaller. So I think we're better to go back to square one. We've already spent what money we needed to, and I'm sure there's a bit more, but we just don't have an answer on that, I assume still.
Yeah, Brandy, just for an update. Number one, this is not the Rotary Club of Windermere.
Yes, Rotary Inc., the foundation, 501.
Correct. So it's completely different from the
Right.
Rotary Club of Windermere. So I want to make sure that
Yes.
is stated. No worries. But yes, we have asked for a full cost and accounting, and their attorney did receive that today, and I know their attorney. I've worked
Okay.
with their attorney, and the number that has been provided to me is about $157,000.
Wow. Oh my.
So, yeah, so we would be looking at repaying the Rotary Inc. that money for their current expenditures. And I haven't seen the invoices. He just received them, but I have, again, worked with this attorney in the past. So I have no doubt in my mind that that is the exact figure, even though we will see the receipts and stuff like that. But he went line by line through it, and we've been talking all day.
But in terms of, like, before there was and anticipated that they would have spent kind of beyond what was approved. Is that the case or not?
I remember there was a number that was thrown around like between 300,000 and 400,000, but I believe 157 is going to be the number.
Okay, and do you know just off the top of your head what the line item was, or how much it cost us to demolish the community room, which we would have had to do anyway?
Not off the top of my head, but again, we're going to receive the itemized invoices tomorrow.
Okay. All right, well, I still think square one if that's what the majority of people want, and that seems to be what it is. So, but thank you for the update on that.
Thank you, Brandy. And I do not have any additional renderings to offer tonight.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Brandy. If you want to put your virtual hand down. Let me scroll through here through everyone that is in attendance. I do not see anyone else with their hand up to add additional public comment.
Renee.
There
just-
is a,
Oh, I see Renee has raised her hand. Renee?
You're here with 2 other residents.
Oh, I need volume down.
Renee, Renee,
Okay.
if there's anyone close to you with the same Zoom on, it will echo. Okay, perfect.
Right.
I think you got it.
Um,
Nope.
can you turn your volume all the
Turn
way
your-
off?
Just turn your volume off,
I'm
Sandy.
trying.
I'll tell you what, Renee, while you guys work that out, how about we let Stephen Withers go and we'll come right back to you, and that gives you a chance to work that out. Fair enough?
Thank you.
Not a problem at all. All right. Mr. Withers, sir.
Robert, just going back to your comments about the budget. I mean, I looked at the drawings that were in the Public Works office, and the drawings were far beyond what I understood the town had approved. Have we compared the percentage that the town council approved versus what Rotary might have authorized? The Rotary should not have been authorizing more than what the town had approved to do. That's my comment and my concern.
Stephen, I don't know that we've had the opportunity to do that exact analysis, but I believe since the meeting here tonight's to talk about 45% plans, we would be at that point.
Well, that's what I'd like to know. What is the value of 45% plans versus the $157,000? In other words, if you agree to 45% plans, I looked at the drawings and they look far beyond that. So Rotary could have authorized more work done than the town did, and then who's responsible for the difference?
Well, we'll have to do a full accounting to make any of those determinations.
I know.
We don't have that in front of us right now to make that determination, having just received the data late this afternoon, but we will certainly be working on that.
Thanks, Jim.
You bet.
Yeah.
It's Robert Smith incognito. That's me, John Fitzgibbon. So I'm sorry, I signed in the other day for a meeting with Robert Smith and I signed in with him in Zoom. So I'm here. But yes, to Stephen's point, ultimately we will do a full accounting with the Rotary if that's the choice that the town council agrees to, relative to us paying to get out of the deal. So that would have to be substantiated, and Robert and I would be working with their lawyers and looking at what that really meant and what was approved and what wasn't. So
Thank you, John. And that's exactly right. We still have some decisions to make and some guidance to obtain and some discussion to have before we get to that point. Stephen, if you want to drop your virtual hand, we appreciate it. Thank you for your comments, and we will go back to Renee.
Hello,
Hello.
are we better now?
That is better now. Thank you, Renee.
Okay. I'm here with Sue Ellen Doty and with Sandy Gee. We are all Forest Street residents. The three of us, as I reported at the last meeting, went from door to door, talking to people, giving them information about the workshop last Monday. And I think it's important to say that no one supported the pavilion as it is. A lot of people thought we need bathrooms, but no one supported the plan. When I looked at the agenda on your website today, that pavilion picture has full-grown trees all around it. That's misleading. The other thing I want to say is, why do we have town hall falling apart? We have so many lawsuits in Windermere that we can't take care of our infrastructure. And I know there's over a dozen lawsuits on the books, if not more. I don't know what town council people are listening to and who they're listening to, but we still don't have numbers. I understand you may have data this afternoon, but we have been looking at that for over 2 weeks, waiting to find a light item expense from the entities involved in the pavilion and have yet to see it. And I, for one, am totally against it. The green space last night had people in it laughing and throwing the football. And there's a better place for it somewhere, but it's not on that corner. And the people on Forest Street care about being heard, and we have not been heard. There is construction going on all over town. We have had construction in downtown Windermere ongoing, including our new beautiful infrastructure of a police station, and our town hall's falling apart. I don't understand the priorities or where the citizens get to be heard. And that's all I have to say for tonight.
Mayor, if I can respond.
That's fine, Robert.
Renee, I'm not sure what lawsuits you're talking about, but currently we just have one. And that's with the boathouses.
And one of my mother's best friends is 84 years old and was worried to death about being deposed at 84. And in the paper today, I read where you're too busy and you're too important. And these are our neighbors. These are our best friends, Rotary members, people that have been pillars of the community, and nobody hears it.
Renee, I think that we're confusing two issues here. So that one issue is a contractual issue. The other issue is the boathouse or the pavilion. So I want to make sure we keep those separate. And certainly no one is too important to participate, and no one is not hearing input. We may disagree, we may respectfully disagree.
I will
that is part of the
respectfully
process.
disagree also, but the
Absolutely.
citizens are not being heard in Windermere. There's a few that are, but the
Okay.
bulk of the people are not being heard.
Well, Renee, you're always welcome to come to my office and have a discussion with me. My door is always open. I've never stopped anybody from coming in. And that includes the two other individuals with you tonight. And I'll be more than happy to meet with you. We have made great strides in making ourselves more accessible via either town admin and or through these public meetings to gain your input. And I believe that we've done a great job at that, but.
What about your citizens that don't have computers?
We do door hangers within 500 feet.
No, I got one and these two did not.
I got
Okay.
one.
I did not, but maybe I'm more than
We-
500 feet.
Yeah.
I assure you that we do take the public input part extremely serious, and we go above and beyond to do our darndest to make sure that there are door hangers and that we have open public forums and workshops so we can hear feedback and we can receive that feedback. And we can actually process through some of that feedback. There is no, I promise you, I go to a lot of municipal meetings, and the type of back and forth that we're having right now doesn't occur in very, very many places. So You know,
All
we
right.
have something that is, we have something that's special. But it does, you know, listen, it comes with challenges, right? What's the right amount? What is the right amount of, you know, growth and progress versus preservation? What's the right way to handle trees and resources? And all of those things are
Friendships.
really big challenges for all of us as we try to point our way into the next 30 or 40 years to make sure that this town is set for our children. And that's always my goal. That's what I keep my eye on. And I just want that to be super, super clear.
And who's
Yes.
speaking? I'm sorry.
That'd be Mayor O'Brien and
Mhm.
Renee. For clarification, as I said to Teresa, we are doing a current assessment on Town Hall for refurbishment. So we'll probably be funding that in fiscal year 23-24. Because
Excellent.
again,
Can I
again,
ask, how many people are in favor of it that you have heard from?
in favor of what?
The pavilion
Of the
as it
pavilion
is.
As it is.
I mean,
Aye.
we can't,
We did that last time.
we can't tell you the exact number that are, a
Can you
lot of
tell
people,
me
we had
the
90, hang on. So we had 90 people or so participate on the last workshop.
And
Yes,
some of
very
them were
well
not
attended.
Town of Windermere,
Yeah,
some of them were
absolutely.
not residents.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. And you also have people, you know, you have some people that don't participate in these things at all. You know, what council is tasked with doing is the job of making sure that they listen to folks in the community, that they listen to everyone that has an
Okay,
opinion.
so out of 50 homes that we visited, 0% was in favor of this. And you're telling me there is a number, but you're not allowed to say. And
Well, no. I would never, that's not what I said. I want to be clear. There's no, we work as a representative council, right? So we represent the entire town limits. So there's not a way, we don't do a straight up referendum on this particular type of thing, unless that's the direction that council would love to go, but I don't think that's the case. So that is something we save for different things. In terms of, you know, on the last call, there wasn't a ton of support for this. There's no doubt about it. But you can't incorporate that support into a council discussion until we leave that particular format of meeting and move to the workshop. And that's where we're at tonight. So we just want to make sure that if anyone has additional input, that they're able to provide that for council before we have some back and forth free-flowing discussion on the best way to proceed.
And Renee,
Why
to be fair,
can there
for
not be a vote from the town, from the people of the town? Why is that not possible? And I am curious, I honestly don't know.
Because first of all, you can call me, we can talk through this quite a bit, but I will tell you that the reason that is because we operate as a representative. You elect your representative town council, that town council represents you, your neighbors, and the entire town. And that's what we all strive to do.
And in a perfect world, that would be great.
yes.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And again,
Appreciate
I'll be in my office probably around like 10:30 tomorrow, and you and your friends are more than welcome to join me for discussion, and or we can set a time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee, and
right.
your two other friends.
All right. Any additional public conversation or input at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close our public comment. And
Renee Singh Golani has her hand raised.
No,
She's the one that just spoke.
Teresa.
Okay.
We just heard from her. Thank you.
All right.
You do have comments in the chat box, Jim.
Yeah, yeah, the chat box is not
Okay.
And just so
If-
everybody knows, the chat box is recorded in the minutes. So whatever is put in there will be
Yeah.
reflected in the minutes. So at this time, there's no additional public comment. I will go ahead and disable the chat box, and I'll open it up for, or you can open up for council discussion.
Yeah.
Or if you want
Thank you, Robert.
to present the options, and John and I can discuss that as well.
Absolutely. So let's have, we'll have a presentation for council and the public at this point. And from there, we will have a Q&A with council and additional conversation as we try to forge a path forward here. Robert?
Yes, sir. And again, sorry if you hear anything in the background. It's my 2 kids and my mom. But the 4 options that are on the table tonight for town council to consent to let staff know how to proceed. And that's the basis of what we're here to decide tonight for staff is number 1, is there a consent to move forward with the project as approved in the past? Number 2 would be if council's amenable to a somewhat of a compromise relative to the design, the layout, the size, the scope, then I can direct John to work with ZHA and Hunt and Brady to go ahead and come up with 3 concepts that incorporate all of the issues that everybody has discussed tonight, and then bring it back to a future town council meeting or a workshop or a public workshop. The 3rd option is to go ahead and say, we want to go ahead and pay back the grant, which would go back to Rotary Inc., which would be $157,000, and leave the space open. And then the 4th option would be to pay the money back and construct restrooms. And John's on the line. Did I state that correctly?
Yes, Robert, you did.
John is here. Yep.
Yeah, you did. I'm incognito with Robert Smith. You probably see my green box. So yes, you did. That's what Robert and I talked about tonight. So we really have 4 options to present to you guys. We've been spending a lot of time in due diligence, trying to listen to all the residents and trying to figure out, an opportunity and a way to move forward with you guys. So there you go.
Thank you, John. We appreciate that. All right. So we've had a lot to obviously digest. Now, this has been about a 2.5 year process to get to where we are today. Teresa, if you could mute your microphone. Thanks. That just makes it a little easier. We don't get the feedback back and forth. So,
hey, Jim, one thing though that I think is important as you guys are making decisions as council, and I'm sorry I'm jumping in, and I apologize for that, but I think it is important because every decision you guys make should be based on facts. And we have done a lot of due diligence with our arborist in town and with the juxtapositioning of the building to stay within the footprint of the existing, community room. And the trees that are coming out are 2 or 3. 2 are leaners that our arborist has asked us to remove. And then the other one is a longleaf pine that has a leader cut on it from previous conditions. And then the other one is a camphor tree. So what we've done, and I think it's important for council to understand, we have been very judicious in our design to ensure that we're not removing tree canopy and all that stuff. And I have had many meetings with Susan Carter and walked through all that. So I just want to make sure that as you guys are determining what we're doing and the location and the master plan and juxtapositioning of the building, takes that very seriously in context. Because I've heard comments tonight that are in opposition to what we've spent a lot of time doing with the tree board. And I think that's important for you guys to understand.
And that is correct. And I do want to, there's a couple things. So just a couple little ground items that I want to make sure that everyone understands, including council tonight. So tonight is not, this is not a session where we vote. This is a session where we get information. We can have some discussion back and forth, because as everyone may or may not know, and there's a lot of folks on tonight, which is always good. Council does not get to have these conversations unless we are at a public meeting. So while there's lots of conversations that go on in the neighborhoods, if, you know, and I can have a conversation with Teresa or Randy or Renee, I cannot have a conversation with a fellow council member. So I can't get what their take is. I can't find out that information without us having this workshop. And that's why the workshop's so important. It's designed to make sure that we take all of the input that we received at the public forum, and then we wrap that in with some additional information. Now tonight, we had hoped that we would have a little more additional information. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that does not. But we do have some information that's going to be useful this evening that we can query staff, and as well as have some good discussion amongst council about what they're hearing in the community, so that we make sure that we take in as many different viewpoints and input as possible. And we, you know, I mean, one of the challenges council has in front of them is that they have to big picture this in terms of not only what is good today, but what's good 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know, 20 years from now. So, and it's not as simple as, you know, everyone would like our town hall to be brand new. It's a historic building, and it has to be evaluated before we make any tweaks or improvements, anything from paint color to making sure that the floor is well supported. All the things that need to take place has to be done in a very specific manner. And that we also have to make sure that once we have the data from something like that and the reports from something like that, we then begin the budgeting process to make sure that we have those dollars available to do that work. You can't start without the funds needed. So there's a lot of different parts and pieces that we have to make sure that we consider and then encumber. The same thing with the pavilion piece, where, you know, we have a situation where we've been working on something for a couple of years now. You know, the Rotary comes, or the 501c3, a portion of the Rotary comes with an offer of a gift to the town. We look at that, we analyze that, we talk about it, we tend to, you know, move it forward, and then here we are, kind of at, you know, this is our challenge, right? The 11th hour challenge, I call it, where, you know, we take the building down to make room for an event, and all of a sudden people start to look at that space and go, well, I like that space. That's really nice space. I would enjoy that space. Maybe we should keep that space. But, you know, that doesn't take in necessarily into account the fact that we have already contracted for a pavilion in that space, and what that pavilion may look like is still evolving, but you know, we did move forward with that. Now, council can decide that, hey, we want to look at backing out of that. Council can decide if there's a way to move forward with that in an amended fashion. We can do all those things, but it does, you know, it comes with some complications. It comes with some challenges. I never say they're not worth it, but it's not as easy as snapping our fingers and going, we want this or that. That all is you know, partly, you know, we're reliant upon others for some of those pieces and parts. So, and then, you know, I make sure that I listen to all of the input that we hear. Example, at the big public workshop session that we had, we heard a lot of input, and some of that input's a little incongruent, because you have a lot of opposition, obviously, to the pavilion that was heard at that particular workshop. But I also, if you drill down into that, you hear movements and discussion about the size of events. So then I hear, well, we want to make sure that we have all this green space to have bigger events. But what I'm hearing is, you know, the folks on Forest, the folks on Butler over there, they don't want bigger events. They want probably smaller events or less events. They certainly don't want more events. Now, we know that we're not interested in a ton more events. That's why we were very cautious when we entered into this agreement, to make sure that there was only one event that had to take place as part of the agreement that we made with Healthy West Orange. So, you know, and the funding is not as flexible as as just going back and saying, well, we want bathrooms, because that doesn't meet the mission necessarily of Healthy West Orange. They're not in the bathroom business. They're in the Healthy West Orange business. So we would have to make sure that we have the opportunity to have that discussion. So what I want to do now, though, is talk a little bit with council in terms of getting their questions, their thoughts, what they're hearing, and then we can work towards making some plans on how we think we may best move forward and directions for staff, so we can get additional information from them. All right, I see Councilperson Stroop's hand up. Tom, I know you've been engaged in this. Go ahead, sir. You have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. First, I guess, is definitely need that line item, because we're saying 157. There's a lot of factors involved in that may have been incurred costs anyway. So if we give a number to the public and to town council, it should be a number that subtracting the would have been incurred costs anyway. So that's critical to me. I think it's a big thing. I think 157 is a lot of money. But I think it's going to be less than that once we realize that. From my impression, and maybe some costs that were incurred beyond what town council's approval was at least implied. So that's important to me. I still have not got a straight answer, not because anybody's avoiding me, but because I don't think anybody knows for certain yet. How much can we reduce this and still be eligible for this grant? Because we had the 2 largest responses in the history of Zoom and probably town council meetings, truthfully, from the inception of our town council in opposition to this pavilion. We can't count votes that don't vote. So that's sort of to me, that was almost a moot point to say, well, there's people that didn't vote. So I can't, it's like, if you're not there and you don't show up, I don't know what your opinion is going to be. It could be that the 99% that didn't show up actually don't want it either. So we can argue that both ways, but I want to know that number, that line item number. I want to know how much we can reduce it, because of all the input I've gotten, including the workshops, the 2 largest responses on Zoom and or any town council meetings, all of them are saying that reducing it significantly is what they want. Not a little bit, not moving the bathrooms around back, not 10 feet, but smaller or almost non-existent at all. So can we still do, like you said, just bathrooms and a small stage, or how small can we go before we lose the grant? Because if that's the case, and if we can't reduce it significantly, then one of those options, in my opinion, shouldn't even be on the table, because it's not an option. Hang on, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah. So we still keep going back to the issue of the pavilion and what its intent is. I mean, we all know that a soundstage is intended to increase sound. There may be some benefit to the people on Forest because it is pointing the sound in the other direction, but there certainly is no benefit to anybody over on Oakdale. So we keep going back to that. I don't think that we need, and I'm speaking as a resident that's affected by this significantly, which is part of the reason I got on town council, because I wanted to be part of the solution for the town and not just a squeaky wheel. So the residents that live in this area do not have an interest in having more events downtown that create more noise and traffic, which is historically been the #1 complaint nationwide in any community. We think it's unsafe for our community back here. And I think that is the direction I'm coming from, is that whether it's a grant or not a grant, whether we pay back or don't pay back, the footprint to me is not as important as the impact. If we say we're only replacing the size and scope of the previous bathrooms, which last number I heard, it was actually 30% larger than that, not to include the height. That to me is not as big an issue as the actual impact that it has, because we know that the same square footage of a nightclub has less of an impact as a daycare, for instance. So, and I've also done an unofficial poll to people that live in the outskirts of Windermere. And I asked them if they wanted, because I wanted some feedback from people that lived not downtown. And I asked them how they felt about having this pavilion, for instance, at the recreational center on over there near the Manors. Or for instance, the park over there near the boathouses. Nobody wants it. So if you don't want it, if nobody else wants it in their backyard, I don't think that we should put it in our backyard if that's the case. So I want to get input from people that live outside of the town who personalize this to the point where, how would this affect you if you lived here? I think we have to go with the what we hear. We don't hear a lot of support for this. We can't count votes that don't vote. I'm still open to suggestions for size and scope. It's not all about me, and I'm not trying to make it all about me, but up to this point, I have not heard anything that would indicate we could keep this grant if we significantly reduced it. And I have not heard anything from anybody on the last two largest Zoom meetings that even want to continue with the process the way it is. So I'm waiting for feedback. I'm open. I get contacted several times a day, like all town council and the mayor and Robert, I'm sure you do too. And I'm waiting for input from people. It's not the Tom Stroop show, as I've been quoted, somebody says, quote a saying. I'm waiting for input from people to give me their input. And then my decision as town council is to act on that input. And so far, that's the input that I've gotten.
Thank you, Councilmember Stroop. There's no requirement as far as square footage, and Heather can confirm that. It's just the items that are included in the contract, but I don't believe there's any requirement as to square footage.
So what does that mean, the items?
So Councilmember Stroop, I can address that. Remember that the Rotary has a grant agreement, a written grant agreement with the West Orange Healthcare District. And what that requires, that grant agreement requires the Rotary to do certain things in order to receive the $1 million in funding. And that's actually, they receive it in big chunks. But what it requires in the agreement is a covered stage furnished with a retractable projection screen and appropriate lighting and sound equipment, men's and women's restrooms, a minimum of 3 stalls in each, plus a urinal in the men's restroom, 2 family restrooms, and a concession stand with an equipped kitchen in downtown Windermere at the corner of Forest and 5th Avenue, where the existing community building stands. So those are the requirements, like what Robert was saying, the items that have to be in the project in order for the Rotary to receive the funds and for the Rotary to uphold their end of the contractual requirements that they have to do.
Okay.
And then we have the agreement that the town has entered into with the Rotary saying that the town agreed to the project. So there's no square footage, there's just a requirement for those specific items.
Heather, can you continue reading that description, the description of project? Because there's other items that are included in that aren't exactly exclusive into the pavilion building itself.
Certainly, like the demolition portion. The
Yes,
project
please, and
will include-
the repaving and refurbishing of the basketball courts and everything else.
Absolutely. Okay. The project will include the demolition of the existing community building, installation of a new septic drain filled in tank, repaving and refurbishing of basketball courts if necessary, appropriate landscaping, and potentially redesigning the parking area. Behind the pavilion will be additional parking, and beside and around the pavilion will be a park with exercise stations. The new pavilion will be named the Healthy West Orange Pavilion and will support the district, that's the West Orange Healthcare District, in meeting the goals of Healthy West Orange by providing a central location for health and wellness programs to be offered to residents of West Orange.
And I believe that is attached to the agenda this evening if anyone wants to do an additional deep dive into that document.
So,
and
I'm
it-
sorry.
It is,
so-
Mayor. It's item 2 in our contract, and it carries forward from the contract with the Rotary Inc. and the district.
Thank you, Councilperson.
So
Data.
it doesn't really to answer my question, it doesn't really sound like that we do have an option to reduce this to the scope that the residents want and still keep the grant. Because there's a lot of other things there that go along with that grant that haven't even been discussed yet.
Well, I would not say that's 100% accurate. You always have the opportunity to go back to the funder if all parties are in agreement to amend those, some of those requirements. The funder does not have to say yes. So, you know, it's one of those situations. What I would say to council is that if a modified version of a pavilion is what is desired, we should get our thoughts in terms of scope and scale of that and give that information and provide that information to staff, and have staff and the 501c3 at the Rotary go to Healthy West Orange to have that conversation. If you don't provide that direction and don't have that conversation, you know, we'll never know. So that's why it's kind of it's a pretty broad discussion. So we'll keep working our way through that. Now, at the end of the day, if a significant amount of council is thinking that, you know, hey, we'd like to move forward with what is there, that guidance or those questions can be answered, or we may say, you know, we don't know what we want to do or don't feel like this is a good way to proceed, and we would give that direction to staff as well. And but you know, again, we're not voting tonight, we're not consolidating tonight. Really what we want to focus on is to, you know, get ourselves wrapped around whatever questions need to be addressed so we can make a more formal decision at a full town council meeting in the future. We will go to Councilperson David.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple questions. One to John, just to clarify. The new pavilion, is it going to sit exactly in the square footage of where the community center was? Just to remind myself the layout.
No, that's a great question, Mandy. Thank you for that. But so what we're looking at is the redesign that reduces the size to basically fit within the context of the old community room. And so that's kind of the direction. And we have conversations with Healthy West Orange. We've had conversations. And again, I want to preface this to all of our residents, to our council, and to everybody in the town that, you know, we hear you. What I'm trying to do is figure out a mechanism in which we can still maintain $1 million gift to our town, while at the same time remembering why we even got into this. Because I think that's important for the council members to understand why we're even here tonight. We're here tonight because people came to us and said, hey, we rent stages, we can't control sound, we don't have restrooms, we have events that we've all agreed to, and there's no more events that can ever go on beyond what you guys agree to. And so this was us in context answering a call from the residents of the town at the time to be able to provide a facility to give an opportunity to our town to control things more, control restrooms, no portalets, reduce our costs, control sound, control those things. And so that's how we started this journey back in 2017 and 2018. And throughout that entire process, we've tried to answer that. And, you know, maybe we missed the mark on the look of the building. And, you know, we took the community room down and now everybody likes it better. So all I'm saying is that all I'm looking for is clear direction from town council, clear direction from town staff. And we're going to go off and do something that's going to be pretty dang nice for the residents of this town. And that's where I'm at, you know? And so in answer to, I know that went a long about answer because I got a lot. And I want people on this call to know that I'm not defensive, because this has been going on since 2017. And we've gotten to an approval process to brought us to a 45% document And so there's why we have costs, right? And so we all have to deal with that. And I'm just looking for direction, but I'm also sensitive to the residents and sensitive to a lot of people. And I just want to be a good steward of the town, just like you guys do. And so that's kind of where we are right now. And, you know, there are opportunities, and we've been working with the Healthy West Orange District to look at viable opportunities that still meet. I think what you guys are talking about tonight is program, right? It's like, what do we still have to do to fulfill the grant, but yet at the same time, answer the call to all the residents? And that's the precipice that you guys are on tonight, is to try and figure that out. And so that's where we are.
Well, and that leads to my second question, and I'm not sure who can answer this, but you know, after hearing residents and hearing and seeing the emails, my question is now if we decide to not continue, then we have the 157,000, that's kind of in the ballpark, but then we've got the expense of bathrooms. Has anybody thought about and even looked into how much more it's going to cost the town? And are the residents, you know, is that something the residents are not going to give us backlash on of, well, now you cost us more money? Well, we had $1 million free grant, so that was going to supply all this. So I guess that's kind of my wrestling thoughts, is that, you know, I hear the residents, I totally understand, I get it, but I'm also looking at it fiscally, being responsible of the money that's been given to us and how much we're going to have to spend on top of that if we don't go through with this. So I didn't know if there was any numbers, answers to that.
Yeah, so I think it's important for you guys, factual. If we decide that we don't want to do anything, we want to pay the 150 back or 157, and then we want to build restrooms, in today's market, and I've worked with local contractors to allow us to understand what that cost impact could be. It could be anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 or $300 to $400 a square foot, depending on the size. The size will actually be dictated by how big we need to make it to support the events and the things that are currently there, farmers market, all those things that our community loves. And so we just have to be ready for that, because that could be, and I'm not going to throw numbers out, but what I am going to tell you that, you know, it's a significant cost to build the restrooms. And in addition to that, the location of the restrooms are important, because we already have septic systems and water and infrastructure in place where the community room was. And so if we decide that, hey, we don't really like them there anymore, and that's a comment I heard tonight, then we have to figure that out, because that will be an additional cost on top of that. And so just facts. That's all I'm giving.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's kind of what I'm taking in consideration here. It's not that, you know, if I do like it or if I don't like it, I'm trying to be fiscally responsible of our money and our efforts and everybody's efforts that have been involved and the town residents. And so it does give us a lot to think about, to give you direction. But I just wanted the residents to hear that it's not just the 157,000 that we have to pay back. It's on top of everything else that we'd have to build that we didn't have to build with the grant. So just wanted to get that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson David. Those are very good questions. I'd like to take 2 seconds and add a little dimension to those questions as well. So if council were to decide not to move forward at all, and let's just say for discussion purposes, there's $150,000 remaining that needs to be refunded by the town. That $150,000 is not budgeted. That's the equivalent of the improvements that we want to make at 5th and 4th Avenue parks. And that council has been working on for 2.5 years. That is, those are also funds that would not be able to potentially be utilized for the improvements made at Town Hall. And then if you do bathrooms on top of that, those are additional funds that are not budgeted. So if, you know, That does not mean it's going to occur that way. But if it does occur that way and Healthy West Orange is not interested in proceeding further, or we're not able to come to a consensus, or we're not able to get to a place, these dollars and cents are not budgeted. So they are going to have to come from reserves. And those are the type of dollars and cents that we use to make a lot of improvements and changes and things that we have been working towards. So, you know, there is the potential to delay those type of things that are also very important to the residents and very important to folks who live around parks. This, you know, the challenge of being a community, but also making sure that we make sure that residents have peace and quiet is not easy. So it takes a lot of work. So with that, I will move to Councilperson Rose.
Thank you, Mayor. I have heard from, just as everybody else has, a lot of people, and I gotta say that other than a handful that were in favor of the project as it is now, and some of those were not town residents, the majority by far that I've heard from don't want any of this. And some of them are willing to modify with a reduction in the size of the project. I also, I don't hear that any of our existing town events will use it significantly. And my issue with the town has always been in bringing in outside traffic. And therefore, I see that this would eventually do that. I know that nobody on our council now and our staff, you know, would want extra events. But we don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. If there's a stage there, the next council, the next project manager, whatever, they may say, well, let's use it. It's there. Let's make some use out of it, which is usually what happens. I also, and this is really weird, but I'm not sure we need public restrooms. There's none in any of the other parks, I was told. There's no code requirement for it. All of the events take care of their restrooms now as needed. And if we put restrooms in, that means we have to maintain them and we have to secure them. And in this day and age, that's becoming more and more expensive and a problem in many other areas. So why create another building where we might have problems with? And having said that, I also, I would like to see, I know, Robert, you've got all of the details, but I also, when I look at that, I want to see the architectural agreement between Rotary and the architect, because usually in those agreements, they break down what the cost is between the various phases of design. So we should be able to check that with what they're telling us the cost is, because I think the cost seems exceedingly high at this point for a supposed $1 million project that includes a whole lot of other stuff, apparently, that or could have. So I'd like to see that agreement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Rose. And we all want to see those numbers, and we will do that. We would have it tonight if we had received it in adequate time to do that, but we have not.
No, I understand that, Mayor.
We just didn't
I've
get
been
it.
asking for it for weeks.
Yeah.
You know, or months maybe, but it's been a long time. And I think it's a pretty good indication that the number we're getting, even though, Robert, you know, this lawyer, he's only relating what information was given to him. But to take that long to get something like that, having been in the business for over 30 years, that's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Rose. Councilperson Davitt.
Hey, Mayor, thanks for the time. I just got a few questions and a couple of statements. First thing, I've heard it said a couple times during the workshop and during this event tonight that we would only add one event in this pavilion based on the agreement. Where in the agreement is that outlined? I looked through it and I couldn't find where it was stipulated where the single event was included.
I believe it is in there. The event is a Healthy West Orange event for like physical fitness or running or something to that effect. The pavilion itself does not require any additional events to be added. Councilor Ramos, does that ring true? I don't want to give any improper information.
I'm looking for the language right now.
Yeah, yeah, Councilor Ramos,
I definitely read it.
Specifically looking at item 4 in the town contract with Rotary, and it doesn't stipulate there any use restrictions. It stipulates the use of the crest. It stipulates that the display of the plaque. It says the Rotary will have exclusive food and beverage concession rights. The Rotary and Healthy West Orange may use the pavilion at no charge, and the provisions of this section shall survive the expiration of this agreement. I didn't see a limitation of use to a single use.
No, there.
Councilmember,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
no, I just want to know which agreement are you looking at? The one between
I'm
Rotary?
looking at the one specifically with between the town and the Rotary Club of Windermere, because
Okay.
To be honest, that's the one I care about.
Yes, sir.
Yep. I don't think I made it up. So, because I would never pick that event because I'm not a big runner. So, but I believe it was some, but we'll double check and confirm that. And I know we also had quite a bit of discussion centered around that because we did not want to, it's not the intent of council to bring additional outside events into town. So that was why it was an important part of the conversation. Does anyone else, Heather, do you see it or no?
Yeah, Mayor, there is a requirement in the grant agreement between Rotary and the West Orange Healthcare District for an annual Healthy West Orange signature event. And that's in that chart on page 4.
That is it.
Right, there is one, so there's an annual event required. And then there is the ability for the town council to approve all the events that will be held there. But
correct,
the town would not interfere with the requirement in the underlying grant agreement. So that's where Robert's talking about the one event.
So it's a one event requirement, not a one event limit. So in essence, if town council chooses to do so, we could have 6 events.
Yes, that is completely accurate. If town council decided they wanted to have 6 events, they could. I wouldn't recommend it, but they could.
But okay, so follow me along here. I went out on Healthy West Orange's website, and just to kind of peek into under the tent on what kind of events they host. Obviously Healthy West Orange, they're promoting a healthy community. Some of the events for May, an informational Medicaid session, the Oak Ridge diaper distribution, the Mall Walkers Breakfast, Women's Health and Wellness Connection, and free CPR for the Citizens Training Course. So, I think there's been some misnomer as to what an event is. I think some of the participants in the work sessions have been thinking it's a KISS concert, not necessarily a CPR session for the citizens. So I kind of wanted to, clarify that a little bit as to, it's not necessarily a rock concert at 9 o'clock at night that they're necessarily promoting. I kind of want to look back at the responsibilities for the town for repayment. I didn't find that repayment responsibility in any of the agreements either. I saw that there's a repayment responsibility for the Rotary. I did not see the payment responsibility for the town translate into the agreement we signed. In addition, I did see that there's a requirement for the Rotary to obtain approval for the project by town council at 45% and 100% completion of design.
Correct. That is correct.
Are we just, and this is probably more a question for Councilor Ramos, are we just assuming that obligation as it translates from the district through the Rotary?
So Councilmember Davitt, I don't know if you remember, I wrote that memo. I was thinking through what could possibly happen, which was that the Rotary has the contract relationship with the district for the receipt of the grant funds. And then the town has the contractual relationship with the Rotary permitting the construction of the pavilion. Again, no specific square footage, but allowing the project to happen the way the project was described in the grant agreement. So what my thought was, just how it could carry out was that if the town decides to deviate from the pavilion project as approved under the agreement with the town and the Rotary, that the Rotary could possibly then be in default under the grant agreement that they have with the district, and then the town could be in default under the project agreement that the town has with the Rotary. So those were just kind of things that I was throwing out there. Like, it doesn't specifically say anywhere in the project agreement that the town has with the Rotary that they might have to repay the funds at all. But it does say in the agreement between the Rotary and the district that if the project isn't carried out the way that it's specified in the grant agreement, that the Rotary could be required to repay the funds to the district.
Right.
But the Rotary is also responsible for providing a project that is approvable by the town council.
Absolutely.
But is it, so just for clarification purposes, Councilor Ramos, I mean, but we have, so the 501c3 portion of the Rotary has entered into a contractual agreement, grant agreement with Healthy West Orange. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay, and we have also entered into a contractual agreement between the town and the Rotary 501c3 as a separate agreement. Is that also true?
Absolutely.
My understanding. Okay, so is it fair then to say that while we may be able to not pay anything back, that is a possibility. You may have to pay the amount that has been spent to date back. Or, I mean, I never like to talk about legal things in public forums, or it could be worse. So there, you know, I think that there is is it true to say that there is a spectrum of potential complications at the very least, if we did not move forward?
Absolutely. And right now, I could not tell you whether the district or, well, it's now Healthy West Orange would require a full repayment. I just don't know that. I haven't
None of us know.
worked with them.
Right. And none of us know that. I want to make that perfectly clear too. We want to be completely transparent here. And I bring the spectrum of potential options or ramifications to council so they have that full understanding of what could or, you know, could not occur. We don't exactly know. It has been my experience that when people, if you don't finish a project and you ask people to outlay funds to make up the difference, they're not always amenable to that. Then it starts, you know, like the old Billy Joel song, you know, they start to fight when the money gets tight. So it's just the way that those things can proceed.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
guess
guaranteed to happen though.
Yeah, I guess my line of questioning, Mayor, is this. You know, I think the town council has come to this point in a fashion, an honorable fashion, you know, no misalignment up to this point, but it sounds like there's now misalignment between what we had previously approved and what is currently proposed by the Rotary. So I think there's an opportunity here that, you know, we work with Rotary then works with Healthy West Orange to realign what the desire is. It doesn't sound like the desire from the public is to have a pavilion that is used for some sort of music event or plays or something else. Looking at Healthy West Orange website, I don't think their idea of a good project is an event that hosts music events and sells hamburgers and hot dogs out of the back of it. You know, I think that's counter to what they do. So I think we have an opportunity here to work with them to kind of shape this into a fashion that better fits the downtown Windermere footprint, provides Healthy West Orange what they desire as far as event space for the type of events that they want to host, and allows the town to get some of the amenities that we desire as well. I think there's a happy medium there, but we need to open the communications up. One thing I've been kind of, scratching my head about during all of these discussions is, the Rotary Inc. representation throughout all of it. We should be teaming through these discussions, because we have the partnership with them. They in turn should be teaming with Healthy West Orange to shape this project. I've said from the beginning, I don't like the layout of the current proposed project. I think it's too big. I don't like the architecture. I do like some of the proposed redesigns that Stephen Withers has sketched up, making the footprint smaller. And I think that provides us an opportunity to provide some healthier space in downtown Windermere so we can keep our citizens healthier. As I run around the town, I see, the population is not getting any younger. We all need a healthier focus on everything. And I think that opportunity lies here with this project. So I think we need to take advantage of it. Last thing I want to say is, I really want to delve into the costs to date. Looking at the projected estimated cost from the Healthy West Orange initial estimate, I'm getting nowhere near $150,000. $150,000 total design cost was in the projections. We're at 45% design. I see that 150 total expenditure is excessive. So I'd like to see a breakdown of that before we go forward as well.
Yeah, I think all council agrees on that, and staff, I know will work on that diligently. And thanks, Tony. I think that was well put, and I wanted to make sure that we echo a portion, especially of what you said, that we all got here in an honorable fashion. So whether we all agree with where we're at, that's the challenge. So I think a couple of things have occurred. Obviously, the event and the event space has shifted a little bit. We did something nice by removing the building a little early to make some space for another event that was taking place, and that allowed people to get a new view of that particular space, and kind of say, well, wait, maybe we like it open, maybe we like it smaller, maybe we like it different. So a lot of things have occurred, but I also certainly heard very clearly from the same residents that are, I would say, generally opposed to the pavilion itself in its current shape and scale, was a general feel for their dislike of large events. And we can talk about that to some degree, but I have to say that in terms of having bigger events on additional space that this frees up, that doesn't necessarily seem like the path that would be desired by those residents, especially those who live in that area. So we've got a lot to kind of unpack here, but I think as I listen to council, I'm definitely hearing some commonality, which I think potentially gives us the opportunity to look at some compromise. We'll see what we can do there, and we'll have a little bit more discussion on that to make sure that is kind of where folks want to go. So I think that we can generally have that discussion. So you know, we're not going to poll or anything here, but I guess when I look at the questions that are coming up to be addressed by staff, I think we've clarified a lot of the legal
So,
issues.
real quick, Mayor,
Yeah, sure,
if I could just query, you know, you and the rest of council,
Sure.
you know, because you said something that kind of, I'm not sure I agree with.
Mhm.
And that's that the residents don't like the large events. I think the residents don't like behavior that comes with the large events. I'm not sure they dislike the large events themselves. I think the majority of the residents don't like people trudging through their yards. People don't like people driving over their lawn sprinkler. People don't like throwing garbage in the middle of the street. You know, things like that, you know, granted come with the large events, but the large events themselves, I'm not sure are the problem. It's more the rest. There's ways to solve some of those issues, and that's, you know, guided parking areas to have people park over near Central Park and designate parking over there, vice parking along you know, either 5th or 6th streets and, you know, in residential areas. You know, so that I think there's a little bit of splitting hairs there, but, you know, I just want to make that clarification.
Fair enough.
Mayor, if I can, real quick.
Sure, Robert.
We did order, I believe, 50 signs for future events, just like they are for Winter Garden, for the no parking. To be laid across Forest Street and any other area that has had issues with parking.
Yeah, and you know, and I mean, and this kind of stemmed from a conversation that I had with some residents after Pet Fest. You know, that was a very successful event. It was quite a large event. A lot of people came to participate in that event. They drove, they park in, and this is, you know, this is a sensitive subject, but so the town right away on the side of each road is at least 20 feet. So if someone parks on the side of the road, they're in the town right away. But we all tend to view that as our property, and that, you know, makes this a little more complicated. We can only squeeze so much parking in so many places. So, you know, we're kind of limited there. But you're right, it is a behavioral issue. It's not necessarily an event, but you can't have an event without people, and with people tend to come some of those behavioral challenges. So, but I agree, we can always, you know, work to make those better. And, you know, and it's always nice if people are respectful and don't drop their trash and treat people nice if they're parking in front of their house. You know, those things are always frustrating because you're trying to do nice things. You know, we want to have, you know, all through the pandemic, all we heard was, when are we going to get our events back? When are we going to get these things back? You know, there were certainly some people who are like, no, we like it dead quiet, just like this. And you know, we all like that as well. But certainly, you know, there is a decent amount of folks who are like, hey, we'd like to have a little something to do. So, you know, it's all the balance. So, but I think we come back to kind of our options when we started. So, and this is where, you know, council can assist me in helping to make sure we give staff the direction that they need so they can work with whomever to get us where we would like to try to go. So we can then, you know, vote on these issues at a more formal meeting. So now remember, no voting tonight, but you've basically got a few options. So we can stop 100% and deal with whatever ramifications occur from there as an option. We can suggest to staff that they bring us some concepts that are tighter, smaller, differently designed, and to work with myself and them to work through some of the challenges that we may have with the funder, and to engage the Rotary 501c3 in that. We can build or proceed as we have suggested thus far, like, like continue to forge forward with the existing concept, or we can stop this particular build design and then deal with those ramifications and plan for future restrooms. So those are kind of the 4 takes. So I think, and this is where, I'll have to rely upon input from council, but I think that potentially the second option of working together to try to forge a path with a tighter footprint, more minimalistic, more styled to the existing buildings downtown, and with the opportunity for additional public input, may be the direction that I'm hearing might have some support. So we'll address issues and questions from there. Tony, do you still have your hand up from previously, or is that a new virtual hand up?
No, it's a new one, Mayor. One of the things I'd like to add to that proposed, I guess, to-do list is engage Healthy West Orange on their desires as far as what they would like to see as far as event space. And if there are trade-offs, we've had discussions about not including the kitchen, but as we heard tonight, that is part of the contractual agreement. So is there a trade-off, a kitchen for an exercise pad or something in Town Square, or a walking path that goes from, say, Town Square to somewhere, or geocaching event, something out there that that could be an offset for them, that they'd be amiable to that
with an amended type of agreement.
Correct.
To proceed forward.
Yeah,
I think that's a reasonable discussion path. Yep.
And I think that we do need to do an analysis on the minimum program footprint. Obviously there's a requirement on restroom sizing based on architectural standards and ADA. We need to kind of figure out what that is. That's going to drive a lot of the footprint, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you may be able to reduce that footprint and meet those requirements potentially. One of the things I always hate to do is design from up here, right? But because you get bad design. But by simply saying 2 stalls versus 3 stalls, you change the footprint significantly. And then whether you go with 1 family bathroom versus 2 family bathrooms potentially, I'm just spitballing here, you begin to significantly reduce that size while still meeting your ADA and architectural requirements.
Yeah, and that may be one of the offsets that we discuss with Healthy West Orange too.
Yeah, but
Yes, sir.
but I will tell you, and I'm sorry, Jim, jumping into that.
No, it's fine.
As the engineer for the town, the size of the restrooms are really driven by code. And so that's what we've done. And, we've been strategic in the way that we did that, because we know we're going to have to go through PDCS, our town consultants. And so, I don't want anybody to get, waylaid on the fact that the restrooms size can be reduced, because it can't. Based on
but John, that's based on fixture count. If the fixture counts reduced, the size reduces.
What it was based on certain people coming to events, 300, whether it's Pet Fest, whether it's anything. We tried to size it appropriately, that we could know we could go through PDCS to get, a grant, and in addition to that, get the permit. So we had to be careful on the size of the restrooms. And we don't want, look, here's the deal, right? We have West Orange, Healthy West Orange, helping us. And we have to be careful on the size of our restrooms to make sure that we don't have to have 40 portalettes come in on a food truck event, or 3 portlets come in on, our, food trucks and all the other stuff that we have going on. What they're trying to do is just figure out that minimum that we need, and we control our code.
Yeah,
And even
John, I agree with
even
you,
farmers market.
but we also don't need to build the church for Easter. I mean,
No, I get that.
We need to right size these.
And trust me, Tony, what we wanted to do is make sure we're not designing for Easter Sunday. We get it. I get it. What we're trying to do is figure out a really good compromise. One, because, I'm on the precipice of trying to figure out what Healthy West Orange will pay for free for our town, and it's a gift. But at the same time, making sure we cover all of our code issues for farmers market and all these events that we've already got. And so, that's the teeter-totter I'm on right now.
I know. Well, and certainly, Tony, I hear 100% what you're saying, and that's got to be a great engineering term. Don't design the church for Easter. That's classic. But also, I mean,
I learned that my freshman year, by the way.
Yeah.
That's a 101 course, right?
Yeah.
So
the other thing Tony and I learned at Universal Studios is understanding potty parity. The potty parity is how many restrooms do you need for women and how many restrooms do you need for men, right? That's the potty parity. And that's
I am not going into any of that.
No, I'm just saying that's what we.
I know it's true. I know
But
it's a fact.
it's a huge code for the town, and that's what we've tried to design to just understand how we can better serve our town and the existing events, not anything new, but how do we just control our town?
So John, I think though, and it pains me a bit to say this, but the challenge is, and I stand true to this, right? We will not, town council doesn't design things from the dais. It's just, you get bad design, you get bad everything. But I believe it's fair to say, and council can stop me if they disagree, but I think what I am definitely sensing from both the residents and from council is that if we're not able to, one way or another, significantly reduce the footprint of the facility, that their guidance may be different, rather than to proceed as best we can on an amended agreement and an amended facility. It may shift that towards a harder no. So I think that's what I'm trying to navigate. And we're certainly not going to build anything that doesn't meet code. We would never do that. So,
no.
passing the challenge down,
I get that. And you know what? One of the things is that working with the town, I get it. Like, a lot of people didn't like the design we came up with, but I will tell you, in all fairness, we came up with that design through a lot of people in our town.
I know. And I totally get that. I totally get it. And it had the design features and but again.
But there are so many other opportunities to redesign it to a look to our town that a lot of people will like. And all I'm saying is that you guys have given us an opportunity tonight, maybe, I don't know. It's really what you guys want to do. We have other designs, design is nothing, right? We can figure it out.
Yeah,
how does it work for the town? But at the end of the day, what really matters more than anything is this really what the town wants? Because the only reason we even started out on this path was because people said, hey, we need restrooms. Hey, we need a band shelter. Hey, we need this. And so that's how we started out. And so if all of our residents want to engage in that, man, we can design anything that works in our town.
And I have no doubt. I've seen you
Do you
guys
want
do magic. So
Yeah.
I think that I know that I have full confidence in staff and John and the architectural team.
We got it.
If we're able to get size-wise where we need to go, we will get to a design. I know we can do that. Truly, that's not keeping me up at night. What's keeping me up at night is, can we design something that works for the community, that works for the residents, and doesn't have a negative impact? Careful with, I know you guys are always careful with the trees. And again, if it takes rather than giving money back for nothing, if it takes a little bit of dollars and cents to make the tree canopy better and stronger, I would much rather invest in that. I've said it 100 times. Someone bring me a proposal to plant trees. I will work until it gets approved.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
No, with the 157, with the reduction of the size and scope of the project, you can recoup that cost through that resizing. And also with the proposed concession stand, I think they had like 200,000+ for infrastructure within that area. So there's ways to recoup that money, and come up with a redesign of what may or may not be acceptable to the residents at large. But that's what we're here tonight to.
That's what we're trying to figure out. So so we're going to get to Mandy and Molly and Tom and make sure we get all their input, Robert, and then we'll kind of come back with a consensus, not a consensus, but direction for council to bring additional information to the council for a more formal meeting and a more formal vote. But we have these. We have these meetings. That's why we have them, so we can work it out. All right.
Hey, Jim, I think one thing that's important for tonight is I think we have an opportunity to go back to Healthy West Orange, go back to Rotary, and then come back with a design that might appease the residents and might answer the call where, Robert and I are on this precipice of, trying to answer the call for a contractual obligation we have, while at the same time trying to figure out how do we, make sure that whatever we do is good for our residents.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's all we're trying to do. So if it gets us to, but again, I want to make sure that I'm reading the tea leaves correctly. So Councilperson David.
Yes, sir. So I'm agreeing to number 2. I think that if we can size it out, because that's about 85% of the emails said if you can make it smaller, make the footprint smaller, and change the architectural look of it to make it fit the town. Those were the 2 big things. And so I think if we can do that and the residents are happy, then I think that's a good thing. I do think though, we need to get that itemized list of what they have spent.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think it's ridiculous at the amount of time that we've given them and asked for it and it has not been supplied. I think we need to get that ASAP. And then that will decide if we can come back with a smaller size or not, and residents are still not happy, then we have a plan B. But for now, I think that if we move forward with what you suggested, Mayor, I think we'll be in good shape.
Okay, and just for the record, this is going to require full and active participation from the Rotary 501c3 to make this happen. No one in this particular potential discussion compromise piece, no one can do this in a vacuum. So this is going to take all the players coming to the table and everybody given probably until it hurts enough to get us there. So certainly all of the numbers, all of, in full participation, full effort towards a solution would have to come from every side and every involved entity to make something successful occur. If that is the general consensus of council in terms of direction to staff. So thank you. Councilperson Rose.
Okay, well, I think 85% of the communication I've had has said they don't want anything, but and I do not think that restrooms are a code issue requirement unless we create a facility that's then going to generate a certain number of people and you have to give restrooms to it. Because we don't have restrooms there now. That's not an issue now, right? Okay. But should I lose in this and we move forward in some way, shape, or form, maybe one option could be to discuss with Rotary is maybe Healthy West Orange would be more interested in helping with restrooms, since people that are getting healthy need to use a restroom sometimes. And their exercise, I don't know, pathway that has exercise equipment that again would be a Healthy West Orange highlight. And how about, instead of building another pavilion, what if we were to put the money towards the back porch of our town hall, which is not attached to the facility, so we can keep our historic, classification, and it's falling apart. And we could create the stage where Healthy West Orange could go once a year, or whatever our requirement is, and modify that portion of the town hall, get some money to do it. And I don't think it would be impossible to make that into a stage,
So I don't think it's impossible either. So I think everyone heard that loud and clear. So, and you can't lose tonight, Councilperson Rose. There's no way to lose tonight.
I know we're not voting, but I was pretty clear that I really don't see that people want it, and they don't want more people coming into town.
And
they don't want more big events.
So, and I certainly, I hear you 100%. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I really get, man, I mean, it's a really, it's a challenge. If there's a better way forward, let's seek it out. But I don't think that there's a way forward unless everyone comes to the table.
Right. No, I agree with that, but I'm just saying, if you go to the table and you're doing this, maybe explore that other option, because it would help us in two different areas.
Yep. Heard and received loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilperson Stroop, what is it? What's it? Did you call it the Tom Stroop Show?
Which one? Yeah.
Oh,
no, I quoted somebody that called it that. I didn't call it that. I quoted somebody that called it that.
Okay.
You gotta be careful what you say in Windermere. It always gets back. I learned that early on. So much of this stuff I have mixed feelings about, because I like the activities downtown. I'm very social. I'm involved in everything that goes on here way before it was cool to do so, I guess. And I still plan on doing it no matter what happens with this pavilion. But the sense I'm getting, Mayor, is that it's the impact on our neighborhood. I can't get past that, because any decision I make, I usually like to poll all of the people around the affected area, because they're the ones that live with it. It's like putting a dog kennel in your backyard. Everybody wants a place for a dog kennel, but nobody wants it in their backyard. So I can't in a good conscience make a decision on anything if it negatively affects somebody else, but I still want it. So, and there's issues going on right now. I'm meeting with people tomorrow regarding some issues that have to do with their community. And my opinion is, your opinion, what goes on your street, is much more important than my opinion of what goes on in your street. It's like trying to make a decision of what goes on in Washington, D.C. and living in Windermere. So I think we really need to take into consideration what the people that are affected the most by this want, regardless of what I want, or regardless of what anybody else wants. If the people that are affected the most by this don't want it, then you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, what would I do if I lived there? Or do I want this where I live? And if the answer is no, then it should be no for anybody else also. The problems that we're doing now, I shouldn't say the problems, the issues going on now is that all these things, we can't build to offset a self-inflicted problem. So we can't anticipate that we need more of A, B, and C when we created the issue that led to A, B, and C. So we have control over the size of the food trucks. We have control over the volume of the bands that play downtown. We have control over the size of whatever goes on downtown. We have control over that. So if we continue to build it and make it bigger, 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 and then just say, well, we need this because we're self-inflicting something, making it bigger, bigger, and bigger, then we can stop the process from the beginning. So some of the issues we're creating, we have control over, and we can stop them ourselves. We don't have to have a bigger venue downtown. So that requires a bigger bathroom, or a bigger venue downtown that requires more parking. Those are all things we have control over when it comes to the growth in our community. We're going to get a huge impact from this 6th and Main. Huge. I mean, those people are not putting businesses in there in anticipation of nobody showing up. 80 parking spots is not even going to be close to being enough. If they do put a restaurant in there, which they can, there's not going to be enough parking spot at any given point to go to any place else. So 6th and Main alone is going to overload our downtown area, not to mention any other events that we currently have or anticipate in the future. So what I'm saying is, when we think about this West Orange Health Initiative, that alone may not seem like a big deal to some people. When you pile everything else on top of it, and you see the impact that it has on the people that live here within the 3-block radius, and then you consider what's going on at 6th and Main, that's going to be a big, and that's a done deal. We all know that's a done deal to some point. That is going to be a huge impact on our community. And everybody's not going to come in off of 6th, turn to the parking lot, and leave on Main. That's just not going to happen. It's going to be overflow traffic into our entire community because there's not going to be enough spots there. And we'll continue to be fighting that problem in addition to any problems we create by putting more venues downtown. So I want what the people want, of course, but I want the most what the people want that they're most affected by what we do, whether it's on my street, whether it's in the Manors, whether it's in the Willows, whether it's on 2nd Avenue. I want what they want more than what I want. And that's how I look at things when I make decisions on issues like this. And I hope that everybody does it.
So what I hear there, though, to some degree, is that I don't know whether the building per se creates any additional issue in terms of the like the crowding piece and all of that. I do hear what both you and Councilperson Rose certainly spoke to about, how much, like how large, how the footprint, how many bathrooms, but kind of what I hear you kind of indicating is that the scale and scope of the events is what is really driving some of the discomfort. And that's a mild word to use sometimes, I know, but I don't know how better to say it. So the impact and the discomfort to those in those surrounding neighborhoods, is that fair or no?
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. But I'm not kidding myself, and I don't think anybody else even believes that we're only going to do one event a year there. I may not be on town council 6 months from now, and I'm certainly not going to be on it 10 years from now. And this venue is going to be used for more than one event a year. It could be used for 12 events a year. It could take place. So we're not kidding ourselves. I don't even think we're being honest with ourselves if we say that we're going to spend $1 million on this project and only use it for one event a year, and there's going to be no impact on our community. And they're going to, and Tony had a good point. The West Orange event is probably the least impact that we'll have.
Probably.
So I have no problem with them. Truthfully, after Tony pointed that out, I have no problem with West Orange even having their event down there. So that event in and of itself is a non-issue, because he's right. That's pretty much what they do. They don't put on concerts. We put on concerts.
Right.
And
we
will continue to do that. This is a sound stage designed to amplify sound. That's where I draw the line, because that's exactly what it is. It's not intended to make the sound less. It's designed and intended to increase the sound. Now, it points in one direction, I get that. But a sound stage by design is intended to amplify sound. So
I'm not,
I mean, so from that perspective, yeah, it's a big impact on the people who live downtown.
yeah. And listen, I'm not a sound engineer, so I won't get into, kind of going back and forth on that, but I think there is benefit to pushing the sound in one direction. And again, to be completely transparent, no, I don't believe anyone here is saying, and you are correct, that I said, there will only be one additional event. That was all we had agreed to. There are events, and part of the intent of this is to say those times when we have a open stage where the sound can flow out in any direction without any control at all, that the stage would be utilized for those bands, for any time that there was music or even speaking. So yeah, I mean, different things I can think of, different events that we take place, and council is very careful. If you, and Tom, you were part of this conversation when we had that opportunity to have that Christmas series, and council was no thank you. We were trying to be pretty mindful of those types of things. Now, you're right. We can't predict the future. We can't say who's going to be on town council 10 years from now. But that's the same with building standards, with development, with the quality of the staff we have, all of those things. Our entire town, we have to make sure we tend to these things, and that we're developing tomorrow's leaders so they live here and appreciate what we have and do their best to preserve it.
Yes.
I mean, we work really, really hard on, getting things, amended at Bird Island and all those things.
Yeah,
I don't want to get
left.
I don't want to get too sideways.
Yeah.
But like we're,
I just want to make one last point.
Sure.
Winter Garden, Ocoee to an extent in certain areas that have increased in size and scope. The people that live there have virtually become strangers in their own town. So it's like, walking downtown is not the same as walking downtown before all the growth. And I understand the business owners are prospering greatly from that. The people in the community, on the other hand, they feel like, well, I'm sort of a stranger in my own town. I think what we want to avoid is this idea that we want to become like any other community. Our goal, realistically, should be that communities want to be like us. So if you're going to continue to grow and grow and grow, we will become more corporate and less community. Right now, it's awesome community. I hope to live and die here. I don't want to live anywhere else, but we run the risk of becoming strangers in our own town. So with the idea that people think we want to be like, and this is exaggeration, of course, but be like Winter Park, be like Winter Garden. Our real goal should be that we want people in Winter Garden and Windermere and Ocoee to be like Windermere. And the reason I say that, and the reason that that's appealing to people, is because we do have a feeling of community. We have to avoid what would be a perception of, or the reality of, becoming more corporate and less community.
Fair enough. And I couldn't agree more. And that is,
everything. Yeah, I mean, you're part
everything we do is we try really hard to make sure that we do it in a way that makes people feel at home, comfortable, and that people do want to live here, and they see these events, they see they see how we have input accomplished here, and it does open a lot of that up. But again, always has to be carefully tended. So I think, hearing from all, I would say that you're looking at I would say direction to staff would be those items that we spoke of, knowing again that just because we get that information, that we get that, get those answers, and we get some new floor plans, and we get some new ideas, potentially like Councilperson Rose spoke of, that that does not mean that council can say no, thank you. Okay, or it doesn't mean that they can't say no, thank you. They may look at the amended plans and say we're not comfortable. So, you know, but I mean, I think that's the direction, like it's a 1-2 type split. And unless I am completely reading this wrong, if council thinks that, hey, we don't need any more information, we just want to go vote on it next meeting, you can tell me that. I think, you know, definitely there may be a certain will for some to think that way, and that's okay. But I think overall we'd like to get a little bit more detail, the finance piece, get some questions answered, come take a fresh look at a fresh plan, and move potentially forward from there one way or another. Am I totally off base, or are we close?
Mayor, you're not off base. The response we've currently gotten from them makes me, I really don't know how quick you're gonna get that response. And I unfortunately, every time we talk about this, there's a new something that I didn't know about before, and that's my fault. I didn't read it like I should have, but there are more grant requirements than I knew there were. So I want to make sure that if we do go that option, that it is spelled out very clear, and at what percentage we can reduce it, and what is still mandated. Because at this point right now, it's still mandated to have a concession stand, a pavilion, some parking. And so all those things are mandated right now. So if we could get a commitment, which is, I don't know, we haven't had great luck with communication with them, but we can get a commitment saying that we can do that, then I'd be willing to move forward on it. But I'd want a real commitment saying that we can move forward with the direction that the residents want, and not, if we have to adhere to all of those requirements of the grant, then I don't see any option of us going forward with this grant.
Well, I think so. Remember, Tom, that what we're talking about, and I saw Molly put her hand up as well. What we're talking about tonight is just getting some different vantage points, viewpoints, ideas. Again, council has to vote on this at a regular council meeting. So anything that were to come back would require your approval. Nothing changes or moves forward as we sit here tonight. I mean, this is just for discussion. So I want residents and council to know that, you know, nothing is proceeding other than the fact that I think we're asking some different questions to staff, to the Rotary, and to Healthy West Orange to allow us to look at some different potential plans, some different scale and scope, and do our best to decide from there. Again, like I'm saying, if you get there and you're like, nope, this is not anything like I was thinking, council has full ability to say no, thank you.
And Jim?
Yes,
also,
Councilor Rose.
No extra costs to do this. I mean, I'm okay to go down this road and see if they're willing to modify it enough to meet our needs, but not if they're gonna, you know, that 157 is now gonna go to 167.
I
or something
understand where you're
crazy
coming from.
Like that. So
yeah,
just,
or if there was going to be some piece or part, we would have to come back to council for approval of that. Robert, is that fair? Does that give staff direction at this juncture? I know that there's no guarantee that everyone comes to the table to have these further discussions, and if that's the case, then staff can report back to council.
No, what we did was, in the public input meeting, we pretty much stopped all work whatsoever. So if we are to authorize them to come up with 3 renderings, yes, that 157 will go up. You know, they're not going to work for free.
Correct, right.
So that hole is going to be deeper. So what staff was looking for tonight, based on the previous comments, was to, you know, if the consensus of council was to kill this project, then we would move in that direction.
Right.
And bring it to the next town council meeting. If they are open to a redesign, then that's fine. We'll come up with 3 concepts, but yes, there will be additional costs. So that's the direction that we're looking for is,
So there's no reason then to even move
Yeah.
into that without, I mean, you need a discussion with Healthy West Orange and saying, are you interested in even looking at this other options?
Yeah, maybe that's where we go is, let's just have conversation to see if everyone's amenable. And then if everyone is amenable and serious, we can then make a decision on funding that may be required.
understood, but
Is that reasonable?
the contracts would have to be amended.
Yeah. I know.
Because right now it is just between us and the 501c3.
Mhm.
If you want me to go over the 501c3, then to Healthy West Orange, I would still want to incorporate, Brad and everybody else in those discussions to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I agree. There's no sense doing this without all the parties involved in the same
Yeah.
room.
Let's see if we have everybody at the table first. And if the feeling is, and I'll assist with that. And I mean, if the feeling is we aren't going to get there, or we're not going to make any progress, or everyone's not taking it 100%, seriously, then we will not proceed further. That doesn't cost us anything, correct?
Right. And it shouldn't cost us anything to just have the discussion, and
Right.
maybe Healthy West Orange will actually say, wow, well, then maybe we only have to spend 700,000 there, and that gives us 300,000 to go somewhere else where they need it.
That's a possibility, or if we're lucky, maybe they'll let us do something else. Who knows?
I think, Jim, I've heard what you guys have said tonight, and I think it's important. Having worked with Healthy West Orange Council and everybody else, is we have to give them clear direction on what we want to do.
Mhm.
So do we want to go back to a redesign and come up with a plan that might work within the confines of the existing grant from a programmatic perspective, while at the same time holding true to the budget so it doesn't cost the town any more money in a redesign? Or do we want to just say, hey, we're going to move on our own? Or and I think that's where the town and I are at right now with Robert and Tanya and I. We just need clear.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I lost John.
So yeah, I mean, I think what he's and
No,
I think
I'm back. Did you hear me now? So
It's-
if you guys want me
in and out, man. So Mary, you were saying?
so. What I'm hearing from John, from you, and I think predominantly from council as well, is that we're going to proceed and make sure that we have all the players at the table with an open mind to see if we're able to bring a significantly amended floor plan footprint or modification to council. If no one else is there, we will stop it at that point and make sure that we don't proceed any further. And if there are going to be additional costs, we can bring that to council for their consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there will be.
Sorry, Robert, go ahead.
No, there will be additional costs. I'm not gonna, say there's not going to be. If they come up with 3 different concepts, you're probably looking at between $15,000 and $20,000.
Right.
For that, which again, you can dig your hole deeper without a ladder, but what we wanted to figure out tonight as staff was, was there consensus on moving forward with this project so we don't incur any more debt? So what I would like from council is, not a vote, but their feelings on which direction they would like to proceed at, whether it be to look at a, 3 concept design, or just to kill the project, or just look at bathrooms. That's kind of the direction that I need in order for me to work with Brad and the 501c3 to move forward. Because I don't want to waste anybody's money or time or sweat equity, stuff like that. So that's kind of what we kind of wanted out of this meeting.
So not saying, so not just determining whether everyone's even willing to discuss it, but I mean, you're essentially looking to poll.
I mean, if there are 3 individuals that are like, listen, I just want out of this thing, and we'll take a formal vote in the next town council meeting, then I'm not spending $20,000 that we might have to repay. I'm not looking for a vote, but just like, consent on which way to proceed.
But you're saying that if a vote to proceed, not a vote, I'm so sorry.
Not a vote, thank you.
So
I think we're
a
looking
feeling to proceed this evening would incur additional expenses if you were to move forward, correct?
Yes.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah, Heather can get into, workshop versus a town council meeting, but, if town council consents to, listen, we just want out of this, then I can take it to a formal vote at the next council meeting. But I just don't want to waste time, money, sweat equity for us to work on something that is going to be voted down town council anyway.
I agree. That's why these would, my thinking was these would have to be pretty significantly amended plans to have the opportunity for success based on my read. So, all right, well, council, you have heard from residents, you've heard from myself, you've heard from staff. We'll start with council. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor, real quick. Heather can state exactly what you're allowed and not allowed to do.
Thank you, because I want to be careful here, and that's why
Yes, sir.
Want us to be super cautious. Okay.
Well, like you said, Robert and Mayor, this is a workshop and we're just discussing what direction that the town should be able to take. There is no, I think each council member can state what it is that they feel, but there definitely can't be any so-called action taken tonight. So a council member can tell you, I'm not going to be able to change my mind, or I might change my mind. I can tell you that. But, I think also one of the things that I heard was perhaps just getting from the Healthy West Orange, whether they would be amenable to an amendment to the grant agreement might be a huge bit of information to be able to bring back to the council meeting so that everyone could make a decision. Because if they say, no, it's this, this is the way we want it to be, this is the project we decided on, then I think that that's going to be a decision maker for the council members at the next meeting.
And I would agree that if they're locked, it would be my feel that the conversation is probably done. If they are flexible, then there's the opportunity to have some additional conversation and renderings and plans. But you're right. If Healthy West Orange is locked, then it would be difficult to see a path forward at this juncture.
And Rotary might be as well. So I think it's just like a conversation that needs to be had, and then perhaps just reported back to the council at the next meeting would be the best. And then the council can take action.
But it also doesn't, it doesn't preclude though from folks saying if they're from council members at this juncture saying whether they're just locked in and they feel the same. So it's the same. It's kind of the same question. Is that
correct?
Is that appropriate? Okay.
Oh, sure. Everybody can say how they feel, and they still have the ability to change their mind at the next meeting, however they like to be. Just no formal votes, of course.
Correct. Perfect. All right, Councilperson David.
Yeah, that was my wanting to get the clarification. We can't just have a conversation and just see if they're even willing to negotiate it, because then that right there would help council to have a better direction. But I don't see how a conversation should cost any more money. I don't need to see more renderings right now. I just want to see if they're open.
So I think that that we can obtain that, and you're then saying, hey, I'm open to having some further discussion and potentially looking at some further plans. Is that true?
Correct. I think we see if everybody's willing to come to the table, and then if not, then we have our answer.
Okay. Councilperson Davitt.
Yeah, Mayor, I agree. What we need to do is have the conversation and see what the limits of the agreement boundaries are, for both Healthy West Orange and us. And then at next council meeting, we can vote to approve or not approve any additional expenditures on additional design development.
Thank you. Councilperson Stroop.
Yeah, just echoing Tony Mandy and Heather and Molly, same thing. Just talk to them, see if they're even willing to listen to or even willing to compromise at all. And then, like Tony said, bring it to the next meeting and see if we want to spend any money for renderings or move on from there. So I think it's a good resolution for now.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Councilperson Williams, I saw pop up a second.
Agreed.
Okay. And Councilperson Rose, did we get your final?
Yeah, while you're talking to them, I think we should be pretty specific you should be specific in the programming, like if they say, well, it has to have concession, it's got to have stage, and it's got to be separate from town hall, and it's got, as much of that kind of information as you can get.
Understood. Some detail.
And Heather can clarify this. There's no more district. And I believe.
Yeah, no, you're right.
District is being dissolved right now, and the district has passed along or assigned all of its grant agreements. And I know this because we represented the district, and we're actually dissolving the district right now, but it should be final in the next month after the session adjourns. The district has assigned all of the grant agreements to Healthy West Orange, which is a 501c3 and is not represented by Gray Robinson. They're represented by Gunster.
Yeah, so I just wanted that on the record. So because the previous agreement was between us and Rotary 501c3, and then the 501c3 with the district, not Healthy West Orange.
Oh, you mean like District 1 or something?
No. It was a special district, Councilmember Rose. The West Orange Healthcare District was an independent special district that owned the hospital, Health Central. And once they sold the hospital, all they had was the money from the sale of the hospital left, which they then went ahead and granted out to a bunch of grantees. And they've now given all of the money out. So they've kind of morphed into a 501c3, which is still run by the same folks that were at the district.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Council. And I want to thank everyone for participating tonight. I know these discussions are difficult and they're challenging, and it's because we all hold pretty near and dear what we love about the town. Sometimes that sometimes it helps us to drive those conversations a little deeper. Is there anything else for the good of the order? All right, any additional staff reports?
Just that we have the summer bash this Saturday.
Yes. So please come out, help us volunteer. And wow, there's so many, before everybody gets off, we would love to have, see everyone there. It's a great opportunity to not only share your thoughts, but to share a beverage and support the Windermere Police Foundation and the legacy of Officer German. And we would certainly love to see everybody there and come a little early, help us set up. And I look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you, Robert.
And Mayor, that's 4 to 8.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 4 to 8. Pray for some good weather.
Thank you.
And I hope we have a super successful event. We've, you know, it's been difficult. We've had to miss a couple because of you know, the struggles that we've all been sort of through with the pandemic. So we're looking
Jim,
forward to that.
Jim,
Yes.
this is Teresa. What kind of volunteer help do you need?
I think.
Where do we need to, and who do we need to talk to?
Can I talk to you?
Diane.
Yeah, let's talk to Diane. Teresa, if you'll reach out to Diane, she has the specifics.
Okay, thank you.
I would just tell you the wrong, but you know, like bounce houses, those type of things. So as well as setting up, so selling tickets, etc. So just to give
Okay.
everybody kind of a flavor, but please reach out to Diane. She will put you in the best place. And again, I appreciate everyone and thank you for
Hey, Jim.
participating.
Hey, Jim,
Yes,
can I do a shout out tonight for our community?
absolutely,
Are you
always.
good with that? So I've loved the way this community is poured out to my son. And a lot of people on this call have heard what happened to my son. And so tomorrow, Cindy and I leave to drive up to Georgia to the 5th Battalion Regiment of the Army Ranger School. And they are naming the Lower Mountain Course, which is a 90-foot drop where they train the Army Rangers. And so Cindy and I are going to be up there on Thursday to be there after they rename the Lower Mountain Course after my son. And so I just want to reach out to all my peeps in our town, all of our community and everybody else to just say thank you so much for all you guys have done for us and the way you poured into our family, and just be in prayer for us over the next couple of days as we drive up there to Dahlonega, Georgia, to be there for Evan's dedication to the Lower Mountain Course at the Army Ranger School. So I love you guys. And, you know, all this stuff is crazy that we deal with every day. And Jim, I'm so thankful for you as our mayor, and Robert, just in the town, that we just reach out and we can, you know, be in community together and just figure out how we figure out what we're going to do with our community room. But tomorrow, if this whole town could pray for us and the way you did it and dedicated the service to my son, I love you guys.
Thank you, John.
We love you.
Good luck, John.
Kevin, and
Yeah,
everybody.
man, we're lifting you guys up, and I know the whole our whole town supports you and Cindy, and you know, what an awesome legacy, and you know, we just support you fully, and we're gonna wrap you up. So whatever you need, man. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And
Yep,
I
we love you,
just
John.
so appreciate
Rangers lead the way.
Rangers lead the way. Amen.
All right.
And,
I think
John. Thank you, John, so much.
so
Thanks, John.
thankful. So sorry I ended that meeting that way, but I just felt like
nah, it's good.
when we have the, you know, we're all about, you know, we stand up to Pledge of Allegiance to our flag, and man, I'm telling you what, I love this town. So thank you guys so much.
All right,
for-
man.
Thank you,
Safe
John.
prayers, safe travels.
All right,
Thank
we got
you.
you. And with that, seeing no further business, we will adjourn our Town of Windermere Council workshop at 8:20 p.m. Thank you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you all for joining.
Good night. Hey, Robert, you still there?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna stop the screen share and I believe I need to talk to two people. So let me go ahead and stop recording.